Are you struggling to improve your KD despite putting in hours of practice? Well, it might not be your skill holding you back, but rather a few sneaky habits that are quietly sabotaging your performance. In today's video, we're diving into the top 5 habits that are destroying your KD. Everything from common mistakes that you might not even realize you're making to quick fixes that can turn your stats around. Some of these habits you might already be aware of, but you just needed a reminder, or maybe one of these is the missing piece to unlocking your best gameplay. Stick around because by the end of the video, you will know exactly what to avoid and how to fix these habits to start dominating your matches. Alright, let's get into it. Habit number 1 is something we're all guilty of, and that's reloading right after every kill. In the heat of a fast-paced first-person shooter game, or any shooter game, it's almost instinctive to hit that reload button the second you get a kill. It feels like a smart move to keep your weapon topped off, but in reality, this habit can be a major detriment to your gameplay. Here's the problem. When you reload immediately after each kill without checking your surroundings, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. Even though you might think you're being proactive by keeping your weapon topped off, you're often not giving yourself the best chance to react to potential threats. Instead, you're more likely to get caught with an empty magazine just when you need it the most. And sure, you might get away with this habit sometimes. However, on average, this can result in 2 to 5 extra deaths per match. When you accumulate those deaths across multiple games, it's a major factor that can drop your KD from a respectable 1.5 to a disappointing 0.8 or less. Now consider this, if you had taken just a moment to ensure the area was clear before you reloaded, you might have had enough ammo to take on that second enemy. The key is to strike a balance here between reloading and situational awareness. Always try to reload when you're in a secure position or have a moment of downtime. If you're not in immediate danger, that's a better time to reload. If you find yourself feeling the urge to reload immediately, here are a few things to consider. Number 1, are you running out of ammo because of your poor aim or you're just spraying and praying? If that's the case, you gotta really work on your accuracy to help reduce unnecessary reloads. Number 2, if you consistently run out of ammo, you might need a weapon with a bigger capacity or an extended magazine attachment. This can give you the extra rounds you need without feeling like you need to reload every second. I recommend running an LMG to break this habit because oftentimes it's going to take so long for you to reload the LMG that your brain will become annoyed with it and you'll get used to just looking for your next target instead of spamming the reload button. Number 3, use a quick reload attachment. If you have to, and if you struggle with impulse control, add a quick magazine to your weapon to speed up that reload time, and this can help minimize the amount of times that you get caught with your pants down. By breaking the habit of reloading after every single kill, you'll be better prepared for ongoing combat and less likely to be surprised by additional enemies. It's not just about keeping your weapon loaded, it's about maintaining your survival and effectiveness in the game. Remember, staying alive and being ready for the next fight is way more important than simply having a full magazine. So next time you get a kill, take a moment, assess your surroundings, and use something that we're actually going to talk about in tip number 3 before you hit that reload button. This simple adjustment can significantly improve your gameplay and your overall KD. Alright, let's move on to habit number 2. This one's going to challenge your ego a bit and require some mental discipline. It's about resisting the urge to repeatedly challenge a player who's camping or holding a position. You might have a rough idea or even know exactly where they're at, but they're already set up and ready for you. The problem with continuing to go back and fight somebody who's camping in a position is that every time you do that, the camper becomes even more prepared. They know you're determined to take them out and they'll adjust their position or setup to counter every single attempt you make. This repeated effort not only makes you predictable, but it also increases your chances of getting caught in a bad spot. And the tough part is that the more times you attempt to kill this person, the more emotionally invested you become in the situation. And hey, I get it. We've all been there. Look at the gameplay on screen right now. It's easy to get caught up in the challenge, especially when it feels like a matter of pride. But each attempt where you fail is continuing to cost you extra deaths every single round. In many cases, the camper is in a power position with a significant advantage, making it an uphill battle for you. Remember, they're holding down that spot for a reason. At some point, you need to recognize when it's better to just let it go. If they're camping, it's often because they're trying to maximize their advantage and make it difficult for you. They might not be contributing much to the team's success, especially in objective-based game modes where their position could be hindering the team rather than helping them. But I think we can all agree they're doing a pretty good job of annoying you. So if you find yourself repeatedly dying to a camper, it's essential to shift your focus back to the game's objective rather than fixating on them. However, if you absolutely must take them out, here are some strategies to help counter them. Number 1, look for alternative routes or flanking opportunities. Don't just take the same way back to them every single time, at least give yourself a chance. By approaching the camper from an unexpected angle, you can avoid their prepared position and potentially catch them off guard. This tactic can be particularly effective if you can sneak sneak around without alerting them or other enemies to your presence. Number 2, use flashbangs, grenades, or other tactical equipment to force the camper out of their position or even blind them before you engage. This can neutralize their advantage and make it a little bit easier for you to take them down. And number 3, coordinate with your teammates. If you're playing in a team, create distractions or diversions to draw campers' attention away while you or your team approach from a different angle. Or at the very least, at least take a teammate with you and just by brute force try and take them out. It's a lot harder for them to take out 2 of you than 1 of you. Again, ideally you need to redirect your focus to winning the game and not get so caught up in chasing down one person that's sitting in a corner all game. Prioritize contributing to your team's overall success. Remember, the game's about achieving objectives and winning, not just about taking out some rat in the back of the map. Habit number 3, there's a lot of you out here doing this, ignoring your minimap. This one might be the most overlooked aspects in shooter games, but it's also one of the most crucial. I challenge you to watch any top tier streamer or content creator who excels at shooter games, and I'd bet any money their eyes are darting back and forth between the center of the screen and the minimap every other second. Why is this so important? Information is the most significant advantage you can have in any game short of cheating. The minimap provides a constant stream of information about enemy positions, your teammates' locations, and the key objectives. It's like having a live tactical overview of the battlefield right in the top left corner of your screen. This information is essentially free, requiring no extra skill or game sense. Just look at it. Yet many players take it for granted, or even worse, ignore it completely. Imagine this, you're in the middle of a heated gunfight and you're so focused on what's happening right in front of you that you completely tunnel vision and ignore your minimap. Meanwhile, enemies are flanking you from behind, your teammates calling for help on another part of the map. And if you had been paying attention to your minimap, you could have anticipated these threats, repositioned, or coordinated with your team more effectively. I can guarantee you that if you review your own gameplay, you'll find at least 2 to 3 deaths per game that could have been avoided simply by paying attention to your minimap. I'm not claiming to be the best player, but I've noticed a significant difference in my performance when I actively use my minimap. For instance, I recently had a game while streaming where I wasn't even looking at my screen half the time. I ended up going 21-0. 0 deaths. Now, how did I manage that? I kept looking off screen to talk with chat, and every time that I looked back to the game, I had to check the minimap and re-establish what was going on in the match. It's such a simple thing, but for some reason, many players overlook or ignore the minimap entirely. It's such a powerful tool that can drastically improve your situational awareness and decision making. So next time you're in a match, make a conscious effort to glance at your minimap regularly or more often. Use it to track enemy movements, coordinate with your team, and adjust your strategy. By doing so, you'll enhance your gameplay, make better decisions, and avoid those frustrating deaths that could have easily been prevented. Remember, it's all about staying aware and making the most of the information available to you. Let's move on to habit number 4. But before we do that, if you guys are enjoying the content and you want to support the channel, I feel really weird about people donating or using super chats and me not giving any value in return. So if you want to support the channel, I designed some background packs with different themes so you can get a little something in return. They're just $5 each, so if you want to pick one up, show the channel some love, a link will be in the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen right now. I also have a few shirts up for sale at the moment, like the SBMM shirt or Make Call of Duty Great Again with the American flag on the sleeve. None of this is necessary, just throwing it out there for those of you that want to support the channel. Alright, let's jump into habit number 4, and that's constantly tweaking your settings. Now this one might not apply to everyone, but I know for a fact there are some of you out there that love to fiddle with your settings every other game. Whether it's adjusting your sensitivity, field of view, button layout, it's tempting to believe that finding the perfect configuration will suddenly make you a gaming god, but in reality, constantly changing your settings can actually slow your progress down. Here's why. When you're constantly adjusting your sensitivity or keybinds, you're making your brain work harder to adapt to these changes. Instead of focusing on the gameplay, you're splitting your attention between trying to get used to the new settings and just playing the game. The goal should be to reach a point where your controls feel natural and intuitive, so you're not consciously thinking about them while you play. You want your gameplay to feel like it's an extension of yourself, where your actions are just smooth and automatic. If you're always tweaking your settings, you're disrupting the process by moving these things from your subconscious, where they happen automatically with little to no thought at all, into your conscious, where you really have to focus on them. Each time you make a change, you have to retrain your memory and get accustomed to the new settings. This constant adjustment can prevent you from reaching that state of seamless gameplay where everything just feels fluid and natural, otherwise known as flow state. Here's a better approach. Find some settings that work decently for you and stick with them. It's important to give yourself time to adapt and build the muscle memory, for lack of a better word, because technically muscle memory doesn't exist. That's a topic for another video. Give yourself some time to adapt to those settings. The only time you should consider changing your settings is if you're facing a specific issue that's holding you back. For example, if you're struggling to slide or crouch effectively because your keybinds are in a weird spot, it might be worth adjusting them. However, avoid making changes just for the sake of doing it. Allow yourself to settle into your settings, no pun intended, and give your eyes and brain time to adjust. Over time, your movements and inputs will become more natural and automatic, and this will enable you to focus more deeply on the game itself rather than getting distracted by your settings. Another important aspect to consider is consistency across different games. If you're frequently changing your settings in one game but then switch over to another with different controls or sensitivities, you're essentially starting from scratch each time you switch to a different game. Ultimately, the goal is to minimize the amount of conscious effort you need to exert on your controls so you can concentrate on things like strategy, positioning, and reaction time. By reducing the number of times you change your settings and allowing yourself to become accustomed to your configuration, you'll improve your overall gameplay and performance. So find what works for you, stick with it, and let your focus shift from settings to mastering the game itself. That brings me to the final and possibly most important habit, one that almost no one wants to break because it requires a little bit of extra effort, but the rewards are huge, and that is not analyzing your gameplay. Now, I get it. After a tough match, the last thing you want to do is relive your losses. It's easy to brush off a death and spam the respawn button to get back into the fight. But here's the thing. When you're in the heat of the moment, it's nearly impossible to see the subtle mistakes that are holding you back. And these mistakes can become patterns that quietly sabotage your performance. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's often one specific thing that if you could change it, can almost double your KD overnight. And the best part? It's something you can start doing immediately with just a small tweak in your gameplay or practice. I'm going to dive deep into this in my next video where I'll show you my simple method that can rapidly improve your gameplay in any shooter game, and it doesn't require you to actually record and rewatch your gameplay. So if you're serious about taking your skills to the next level or trying to break through that plateau you've been stuck at for months or longer, watch this video.